Welcome, Dr. Vibhuti Rao. Varsha, I will give it to you to introduce her, please.
Thank you, Auntie. Namaste, Dr. Vibhuti. A short profile of her with a few words about Dr. Vibhuti. Dr. Vibhuti Rao is an Ayurvedic practitioner practicing classical Ayurveda for 10 years in India and Australia, a gold medalist in Ayurveda and a recipient of many other academic awards. She also holds a master's degree in yoga and another master's degree from Australia in public health. Alongside her busy clinical practice, she is currently pursuing a PhD from Australia, passionate about Ayurvedic lifestyle, diet, and cooking. Along with her husband, Dr. Samarth Rao, she conducts regular workshops to help people learn Ayurvedic cooking and practice Ayurvedic lifestyle. So before we play her, we have Dr. Vibhuti sharing three Ayurvedic cuisine recipes with us. So before we have also recorded these videos so that we don't have any connection problems during the presentation.
Namaste. My name is Dr. Vibhuti and I am an Ayurvedic practitioner practicing in India, Bangalore, and in Australia, in Canberra. Today I am here to talk about few recipes which are Ayurvedic recipes which are taken from classical textbooks of Ayurveda which are indicated to balance your health and to combat your diseases. So I'm going to talk three recipes here and we will see how they are cooked, what are their effects and what they do to your body. So let's start with our first recipe. We start with a sweet which is called as Adraka Khanda. So for this we need few ingredients. First of all, as the name says, Adraka, we need ginger. I have just washed it and peeled it. The leaves of tamarind which has been washed properly and taken out. And second, we have to take milk. You can take cow's milk, organic cow's milk, and ghee, very important, rice flour, cardamom powder, and some water. And we will also make sugar syrup. We will need sugar syrup for this recipe, which we will make meanwhile. Let's start with the recipe. Adraka Khanda. So first we will take a pan and put some water in that. Just keep it for boiling for some time. And so let's say we have taken 1 glass of water and we put some fresh pieces of ginger. I've taken 2 and a small one, 3. And let it boil. So the 1 glass of water has to reduce to half a glass and that's when it is ready to transfer to the next stage. So we are making it and we will add some of the tamarind leaves now. So it has to boil nicely. The leaves, if you see, they become very soft and the ginger start cooking well. So as I told, we have taken 1 glass of water. It has to reduce half a glass and make sure you don't cover it with a lid. So now this ginger has cooked properly and the water has reduced to half a glass. So we filter it now. So make sure it cools down a bit. So I have separated, you can see the ginger, well cooked. And now what I'm gonna do is cook this in milk. Just keep stirring here and there. And again, don't cover it with the lid. So now the ginger is very well cooked in the milk. It looks very nice. So I'm going to filter it again. And you have to cook this on a very mild flame. So now I have chopped ginger into a very fine pieces and as thin as possible, and then we have taken rice flour and I'm going to just smear it nicely with the rice flour and keep it. So now I have smeared it very well with rice flour and now we have to do frying in ghee. So you can take cow's ghee, cow's organic ghee, desi cow's ghee, or you can make self at home from butter. Ghee has many medicinal properties. So we have to put it on a medium flame and make sure that it is ready to deep fry our ginger. It has to turn a little bit brownish, but don't burn it. And you can really feel the aroma coming out of the ghee, the ginger, the rice flour, and take it out. So these ginger pieces are deep fried in ghee, and we have to make sugar syrup now. So to the next step, the final step of the recipe, I have taken 1 bowl of sugar and added with a little bit of water to make it sugar syrup. And before it cools down and solidified, we have to put our ginger pieces into this. Mix it very well, and they should be still separated to each other. Add to this a little bit of cardamom powder and mix it well. And you mix it well and the recipe is ready. So our Adraka Khanda is ready to eat. If you see, these are very individual pieces of ginger, and you can very well store in a glass container and carry wherever you're going. This Adraka Khanda will be very much helpful. People who are asthmatic, who have difficulty in breathing, for them also it is a very good recipe, because generally if you have asthma problem or respiratory problems, mostly you suffer with a weak digestion, and that's when it also helps you to kindle your digestive fire. So this may come helpful to people who are prone for respiratory problems, especially the kids. You can give them as lollies, they will love it. Finally, it is very good for throat. So people who speak a lot, like teachers, singers, they sing and they're using their vocal cords a lot, so they become very dry. So for that, this is a very good recipe to chew and keep taking the juices. If you want, you can add, as I said, not the sugar syrup, but the Saindhava Lavana, which is the rock salt. Sprinkle on it and just add little cardamom if you like. And if a pregnant lady also can take it, if she has a lot of nausea and uncontrolled vomiting, and when you don't have good taste in your mouth, this will come very helpful. So here it is, Adraka Khanda. So here we are for our second recipe. In this recipe, I'm going to tell you how to balance Pitta and Rakta. Both are the doshas. Of course, Rakta dosha has been added by Shushruta, Acharya Shushruta. So to balance that, we have a very wonderful recipe. I don't know how many of you like, but this is from banana stem. And it is very easy recipe. We don't need many ingredients for this. We just need 4. One is banana stem. So for banana stem, please buy as tender as possible. Like it should be as white as possible. Of course, it will be inside. Second is lemon juice we need. So I have taken this from my garden, lemons. And we need some grated ginger, small pieces of fresh grated ginger. And final, we need this preparation which is called as Yava Chara. We need just 4 ingredients. First of all, we have to clean the banana stem properly. If we don't clean it properly, the recipe will not come good and the taste will not be as tasty. So you may find the fibers in the throat. Because of that, it is very important to clean banana stem properly. So let's clean the banana stem first. So as I said, it is very important to clean and cut it properly. So you can see these fibers, they should be chopped properly and removed. And you will get that inside very white stem. So now this is very well cleaned and we don't have any more layers. And we will chop it round and very fine small rectangle pieces. So now I have chopped the banana stem. Very simple recipe. We have to dry cook the banana stem. We should not put oil, we should not put any kind of water. So what I'm going to do is just take out the water from it and add to a pan. So you put on a medium flame and add this, take out the water, and just keep stirring it so that it doesn't get burnt. When we are adding this, now we have to add a bit of Yavachara, which I have told it is an alkaline agent. It just gives that extra medicinal property to the recipe and helps it dry cook. So you can add just a pinch of it. In the middle of recipes, we have to keep adding a little bit of small pieces of ginger. You can grate the ginger and keep adding. So I'm just adding a bit of small pieces of ginger and again fry it. Once the ginger is cooking as well, we have to add lemon juice, just half teaspoon here and there. We have to keep adding ginger pieces and lemon juice to help it cook properly because we are dry roasting it. So now as it is cooking, I'm adding a little bit of lemon. Based on your quantity of your banana stem. So as the banana stem and ginger is cooking really well, here and there I'm adding half a spoon of lemon juice. You have to just test it that when you just, press the banana stem that it is cooked properly, you will know that it is cooked. It is turning brown and I'm keep stirring it so it doesn't get burnt. And if you feel like you can add more ginger, but don't increase the proportion of ginger. So the 1 portion of banana stem and quarter portion of ginger and the less than that lemon juice is needed for this. So this recipe you can eat as a dry recipe. You can eat it with rotis, chapatis, or as a side dish, or as a whole. You can just eat it just like that with a spoon. It doesn't need salt. So please make it and see how you like it. It's almost cooked, so you have to just take a little bit of stem and see that it is cooked. Yeah. So now I'm going to take it in a bowl and it is ready to eat. Alright, so here is our recipe from the banana stem. So simple, so easy to make, but has multiple and very important benefits, especially for females. So this recipe has been told for female related health issues and like bleeding disorders, and if you are bleeding from nose, ears, so like people who have bleeding tendencies, they can have this recipe. People who have problems with their blood and high pitta in the body, they can have this recipe. It increases strength and also very tasty to taste. It increases your appetite and also helps in giving you very good sleep. So it is also indicated in fluid imbalances when people go for a lot of like diarrhea or bleeding disorders. It balances your fluid. It is given in urinary disorders like kidney stones, urinary bladder stones, and any difficulties with urination. This recipe is gonna help you. So please make it and taste it. You will be very much happy with this recipe. Now let's move to our third recipe of the day, which is from the brinjal. and it will be like a curry. Okay, so and we are moving to our final dosha, which is Vata dosha. So brinjal is told to balance your Vata dosha.
Namaste, madam. And I'm so happy to be here. Actually, I had initial some issue with the connection. So I really thank Soft Power and Madam Vijayalakshmi Madam and Aparna Madam to invite me for this wonderful event, Namaste 2020. And I welcome you all again. I think you all have seen 2 recipes already. So I would like to have this session a little bit interactive and not just like a lecture. So I would appreciate if you just, put your questions in the chat box in Q&A session, and then we can answer them, because I would like to answer your queries here itself, and see that you go through the session very well. So I'm here to talk about Ayurvedic cuisine. I think many of you would have not even heard of that there is something called as Ayurvedic cuisine. And you would be wondering that, is it going to be all Indian foods? So because this is a global workshop, we have people from all around world. I would like to just give a brief introduction that Ayurvedic cuisine was founded thousands of years back, when food was known to mankind. So if you see in the Indian subcontinent, when Ayurveda was discovered, I mean to say, like, came into existence, it was always there. But when it started practiced on earth, people started, cooking Ayurvedically. So Ayurvedic cuisine is different to Indian cuisine. It could be the similar, some things can be similar, but it has different principles. Because it is suited to individual. It is never like that, like a restaurant feeling that you go, you eat a curry and it suits everyone. It is never like that. So Ayurvedic cuisine is very, very, very unique to you. And what happens is, when we start learning Ayurvedic cuisine, we discover a lot about our health. So these recipes which I have taught today are taken from 16th century textbook, cookbook, which was written by Acharya Shema Sharma. He was a cook in the courtyard of Vikramasena king. And there are a number of other books. Even if you pick up any Ayurvedic textbooks, there have been different recipes which have been told for people to maintain their health, to prevent diseases and promote health. So very importantly, Ayurvedic diet, when you start, like you go to any Vaidya, you ask them what to eat, you get a list. Okay, these things you have to eat. But then you don't know how to cook, because you start cooking with what you know, what you have been taught since you were growing up. So that's where Ayurvedic cuisine or Ayurvedic cooking can come handy, because Ayurvedic cooking is very, very easy, delicious to taste. As I have given the recipes, you may find that there are very few ingredients, not much masalas, spices gone into it. And how come they are tasting very differently and tasty? Even they will satisfy all your senses. So I would say that go to the recipes, see that, they have been cooked as I have told. The other thing is, you may find that these recipes, they have not been told as what measurement to take. So there's no measurement told in the textbook, and I have cooked just like as it is told. And we cook these recipes at home very regularly as well. So just use your common sense, cooking skills to take the measurements of each ingredient. Give respect to the main ingredient of the recipe. When I say give respect, means don't mess up with too much masalas, but yes, put the recipes, like when I start talking about, let's say, banana stem. So banana stem is the main ingredient in that recipe. So take in a good quantity. Other ingredients you just add to your taste, and also just, when you cook, that what to add and how much to add. So measurements have not been given. I just use your common sense with that. Another thing is Ayurvedic cooking has a lot of distinctive properties. It is not just about cook a meal and eat it and satisfy your tongue. It is about you as an individual. So we have, like we say, purification. So there should be purification of vessels. There should be purification of your mind when you cook. There should be purification of the environment where you are cooking. So it should be very pleasurable. It should be very, very, calm and composed environment when you go for cooking. Because cooking itself adds a lot of properties to your diet. That's why they say that, when you are cooking, the person who cooks is very important. And if you see the olden, any kind of history of India, always cooks were given very good importance because they were like half physician for that person. So if you see in the king's courtyard, there will be so many cooks and the main cook will be almost like half physician. He will know all about the king, and they coordinate with the physician, like family physician of that king, to make recipes. And if the king suffers with some issues, and then, the recipes would change and those recipes would be given to them. So I would say, I always give importance to cooking and food because that is your half healing. And medicines are just, a little bit extra that you cannot, manage with your diet. So always give preference to cooking at home, because now there's this concept of Indian cooking, which people feel Ayurvedic, it is Ayurvedic, is not at all true. Though there could be some dishes which are similar way of cooking, but the ingredients, the way of cooking is very different. So if you would have seen the recipes, I haven't used much spices as we use today with a lot of, mixing and a lot of vegetables together. It doesn't go like that. So start with cooking with these recipes, and they will be very, very tasty. I'm happy to take the questions.
Good morning, Dr. Vibhuti. Very nice to have you with us.
Thank you.
We could take starting with Neeta P. She wants to know what foods would you recommend for those with diabetes, because they are the ones who are told not to have a lot of things. Could you tell her what Ayurveda would recommend that they should have?
Okay, so when we see diagnosis from modern perspective, from Western medical perspective, and we apply Ayurvedic principles to it, it changes a lot. So I may not call it diabetes at all to your diseases. We look at doshas, we look at dhatus, we look at a lot of other things with a person. So one fundamental principles you please keep in mind about Ayurveda or Ayurvedic diet, Ayurvedic cuisine is, it is very individual. So if you ask in general, like for diabetes, tell me a diet, it becomes very difficult to tell at once, because I would like to know who has the diabetes, because that person would be, his lifestyle, diet would be so different. So because we come from all cultures, background, different nations. So just giving a diet for a disease would be so difficult to tell. But if Pathya you look at, like if I tell it is Madhumeha, which is closely correlated in Ayurveda, then they say it is an imbalance in Vata dosha. And almost 3 doshas, because at the end, all Prameha, we call them Prameha, converts into Madhumeha at the end if not managed well. So for that, if you go to a modern nutritionist, they will tell you, look, cut down on sugar, cut down on rice, cut down on refined flours, all those things. But if you come to Ayurveda, you will be surprised that different kind of things would be given to you to take. But on a general principle, you have to include little foods and more vegetables, So more vegetables you need to add to your diet. You can eat little rice. It's not like that you absolute cannot have white rice, but go for the wholesome rice, not the refined one. So absolute no refined products, because whatever we are getting in the market is fully refined products and lot of pesticides, lot of chemicals in them. Even the spices, they have been contaminated, and good spices, I think, what it's exported to other countries. So we are left with a very poor quality spices. So I would say just find a good source of food. That's very important. You can take, as commonly known, that bitter gourd, all kinds of gourds you can have, yeah, and make sure that you eat well. Sometimes people say that, you don't eat too much in diabetes. I would say you eat well, you satisfy your tummy, so that, and at once, so that insulin production, as it is told in Western medicine, that balances you. So diet would be very individual, not just like I cannot give it just for diabetes, what to be given.
Thank you, Dr. Vibhuti. Sumit SV is asking about the ingredients of the alkaline powder you used in the second recipe. Could you also please expand it to this concept of keeping your body alkaline, which is seems to be the key advice by both Western medicine as well as Ayurveda? How important is it, and how do we reach that perfect alkaline level in our body?
Yes, it is, I would like to highlight that recipe. It is called as Yava Chara. Yava means barley. So it is made up of barley. And Chara is alkaline agents which are used in Ayurveda. It is beautiful medicinal as well. So we give Yava Chara, various kinds of alkaline agents to people with various diseases, and commonly used in balancing the pH of the body, balancing that acid and alkaline imbalance in the body, and also for urinary reproductive tract disorders. So when Yavachara, just a barley, there's a simple way which is told in Sushruta Samhita, Sutrasthana, how to make Yavachara. But if you go to any Ayurvedic store and you ask for it, it'll be like a small powder, you can take it. Another thing to keep in mind, that there are charas have not been told to take in excess and for a longer period of time. That's the one which you have to keep in mind. Though it is good for your health, doesn't mean you keep eating it almost like in excess, because always it is told in Ayurveda that anything which is in excess should not be done. So anything, even if I tell you that, this particular vegetable is good for you, it doesn't mean that you just survive on that particular vegetable and leave everything else. So Ayurveda says Shadarasas, you have to include all the 6 tastes to your diet, no matter what disease you are suffering with. So coming back to alkaline thing, again, I would say, though it is told to take, it doesn't mean that you just continuously and excessively take it. So a pinch of Yavachara, you have to add to that particular recipe. And what it does, of course, it adds to those properties. It also helps to dry cook that particular banana stem. So use as a pinch, and you can use a little more. When you cook, you would know the quantity. So it is very important, and Yavachara has many properties, as I said. So please include that in your diet, and especially when you have these kinds of pitta imbalance. And see, alkaline, generally people, you see, in Japan, this technology has been developed a lot, that you drink alkaline infused water, and there have been certain water filters which gives you alkaline water. I've been to one of those workshops as well to see that what difference in that water it makes. So they come up with that why Japanese live longer than anywhere else in the world, is they give this credit to their body being alkaline, because they survive on this alkaline water. And you can see they sell actually sachets of alkaline water, which pH is more than, it's not acidic, it's on alkaline side. So if our body is very acidic, you can understand it's more high pitta in the body. Pitta imbalance happens rather than high. The pitta imbalance happen in the body, and that's when you need to balance that. So Chara again is going to make sure that it doesn't happen. So please add that to recipe and don't take in excess though.
Thank you, Doctor.
Yes,
We are usually told about the not to reuse fried oil, which we have used for frying, especially our refined oils. But could you please shed light? And this is a question from Dr. Rupa Vasudevan, our special guest. She would like to know if the ghee which you have used in your recipe for frying can be reused, and does temperature interact with the properties of the ghee?
Yes, so ghee and oils or any kinds of fats, when you cook them, you know, especially in the oil, they say not to cook it. But the ghee, actually, you can utilize it once, but it should not be stayed for a longer period of time. So yes, there should be some chemical changes which happens, but you can utilize that ghee like immediately on some other recipe. So like when I refried that ginger in that ghee, I think frying in ghee is very, very uncommon nowadays, but I would recommend people that get a good cow's ghee, organic cow's ghee, and remove this concept from your mind of cholesterol and lipids going up, triglycerides going up. I think it is more to do with the quality than the product itself. You cannot just blame ghee is bad. You can say the ghee which is coming from this particular source is bad. Like if you buy this particular ghee, that is bad to health because it has been mixed with too many things and not a pure ghee. If you see pure ghee, like you can finish 1 liter in 1 week by doing so many recipes, and all recipes have been mostly, if you see the frying, if you see to cook anything, ghee has been used in a lot of textbooks. And for to put something on it, like with the frying with something, then oil has been told. So yes, you can utilize once more, but immediately, don't sit it for longer period.
Thank you. Doctor, we have Juliet Serra joining us from Australia. I think you might be knowing her.
Yes.
Yeah, so she wants to know where she can buy banana stem. And this is a question some other viewers are also wondering, how do we get tamarind tree leaves? What do we do if we do not find these ingredients in our region?
Yes, very. Hello, Juliet. So the recipes which I have told, of course, don't have many ingredients. So first of all, I will answer you for banana stem. Banana stem can be easily get in our local market if you go to Chifley shops in Canberra, or if you go to Balkanan, anywhere in Indian store, if you go, or Asian recipes, even Chinese, they use banana stem a lot. So you can go to any Chinese vegetable store and you can get very easily banana stem there. If it is not available, you ask them and they will give you the fresh one. Just like coconut, the banana, all parts of banana can be utilized for cooking and for medicinal properties. It has medicinal properties. Coming to your tamarind leaves, if you don't get tamarind leaves, we need to give so instead of tamarind leaves, you can use just the plain tamarind. That juice also can be utilized, or you can use any acidic, like that amla rasa we call sour. So you can use actually nimbu, like lemon leaves as well. So you can chop that fresh lemon leaves from your garden, chop it and then just put it with the ginger. So that should do the work if you don't get the tamarind leaves.
Madhavi Hegde wants to know what is the appropriate time to eat these dishes. Is there a prescription or a proscription on when we should or should not eat these dishes that you?
Okay, so these recipes are told not just for diseases, but also to balance health. Look, if you look at banana recipe itself, of course, as I said, alkaline, so it balances pitta. So when pitta is high in the body, you will get the symptoms. So you need to understand that when pitta is high, what it does to you. So immediately when pitta along with rakta dosha is imbalanced in the body, the first symptoms you get your skin breakout. There will be some problem with your menstruation if you're some heavy flow may come, or some problem with your skin, like pimples may come out, or you feel suddenly very emotional, anger, irritation, feeling very hot, these burning sensations in the body, you're skipping your meals a lot, and the environment also is very pitta. Like in Sharad Ritu, we call in autumn season, the pitta gets very imbalanced. So in those season also, though you don't have you're not a pitta person and you don't have pitta imbalance in you, you can still take those recipes. Once in a while, you have to take these recipes to balance all your three doshas, because Ayurveda is all about balance. It's not about less or more. So you know that how much you're eating. Let's say generally people say, I want to maintain my health, but I love eating pizza. So they make a rule, okay, let's eat once in a month and we don't, abuse eating pizza too much. So like that, you have to eat these recipes once in a while to maintain your doshas. Timing in Ayurveda, eating timings in general are told twice, like morning and evening only, because the food used to be very wholesome, and wholesome food takes a lot to digest. It is not like today's food. For example, like you may feel that you eat so much rice just now, and half an hour later you feel again hungry and you go and eat your chakli, biscuits and other things, because it's not filling you up. The digestion of this refined flour starts happening in your mouth itself, because it's so much refined that just it goes to your blood circulation. Even some of that only reaches to your stomach for digestion. So eat wholesome, like with the skin, so that it gives you that fiber, it gives you that wholesomeness in your tummy. So eat twice a day, especially, and if it is wholesome food. If you're eating refined foods, of course, you would be very hungry, and that's why there is a concept of eating 5 times in a day, because nowadays we don't get wholesome food. So refined foods have to be eaten, just keep eating. So that imbalance your digestive fire. Imagine a mixie grinder, you keep on, switch on, switch off, switch on, switch off. And rather than you have a particular time to switch on your mixie grinder and grind it, it will function better in a longer term, rather than, switching it on and switching off every now and then. So that's your system, that's your gut. You need to analyze for yourself that what is good to you. There's no common parameter, but these are the common things, of course, that eating twice a day and eating wholesome food. They are the very basic principles which you can do. I think I did answer the question.
Yes.
There's a lot to add. I think we're already 8-10 minutes. I would like, Madam, if you can play the last video, and then we can take up the questions.
Sure.
So then I will speak about, so this recipe is about brinjal. You would love this recipe. It is a little bit of like curry, which is everybody would love to cook. So please cook this recipe. If you have any question about this recipe, I'm here to answer.
All right, so here we are with our final recipe for today, which is from brinjal. You can call it as brinjal curry as well. Like for now, we have everything available all around the season, because it comes from different parts of world, different parts of India. What is actually grown in this country locally in this season? So if it is rainy season, what is good to take? If it is winter, what good to take? So it is not like if carrot is good for you, you keep eating carrot throughout the year. So you need to change your diet according to the season and according to your problem. Even if you're healthy, you need to choose locally and seasonally. So this recipe has been given utmost praise in the textbook, and he tells that the brinjal, he starts with brinjal, praising brinjal, that fire upon the brinjal which doesn't have a stalk. So it's very important whenever you cook brinjal that you cook it with the stalk. You don't remove the stalk. Second, he says, fire upon a brinjal which has a stalk but not cooked in oil. So oil is a second important part of cooking brinjal. And then he says finally, fire upon a brinjal which has a stalk cooked in oil but not cooked in asafoetida. So we have 3 things to remember. Brinjal, and it should be purplish brinjal, it should not be white. So he says that white variety of brinjal is little inferior in giving health or supports the body and in nutrition than the purple variety. So choose small purple brinjal. So we need to have a stock, we need to cook it in oil along with asafoetida, the hing. So these 3 principles, please remember. And we start now with our recipe. And this recipe has been told to improve your digestive fire and balance Vata dosha, which is located in the lower part of the body. To balance Vata dosha, we need to use this recipe. Now, to make this recipe, first we need to make kanji. And this is made out of two ingredients. First one is the coarsely powdered coriander, and secondly, tamarind fruit. We have to take out a juice out of it, like just the tamarind rasa we call it as. So let's make kanji first. So I have taken almost half or 1 liter of water in this pan and kept it for boiling. And meanwhile, I'm just powdering the coriander seeds. So please clean the coriander seeds and then coarsely powder them. If you don't have coriander seeds, you can use the coriander powder as well. Add like 1 spoon of it to the water. Along with that, the tamarind juice. And keep it for boiling. So now our kanji is getting ready on the stove. On the other hand, I have washed the brinjal, and remember not to remove the stalk, and just make some, cut it longitudinally. So kanji is ready. It's boiled very well and giving very, very beautiful flavor. The aroma is beautiful. So let's put the brinjal with its stalk in it, and it has to cook in it, and for that just cover it with the lid and wait for it to be cooked. And then we are going to fry it with our masalas or spices which has been told. So now it has been cooked. The brinjal has been cooked very well. Just test it, that press it and see whether it is cooked or not. For me, it's cooked very well, and let's take out, just keep it aside. And first, it's just very simple now, just to fry it with the spices which have been given, and they're not much. And always fry it with the ghee again. And I'm putting the ghee, put in a good quantity. To this ghee, finely chopped ginger has to be added. So ghee is cooked as well. And let it fry. And I'm adding 1 spoon of turmeric, and then add almost like 4 spoons of coriander powder. So coriander powder you can put as much as you like. I'm putting 4 spoons. Just add our cooked brinjal which was cooked in kanji, just with the stalk. So once I put the brinjal, I'm just helping it to cook properly, putting the stalk as it is without breaking it, and just trying, because once you've chopped the brinjal in the way that it opens up like a flower, you make sure that all the spices, the turmeric and coriander, goes inside. Finally, to this I'm adding salt, just as much as you like, and this is rock salt. And mix it properly. The taste, the aroma is very, very beautiful. Ayurveda says that this particular spice goes well with this particular vegetable. And there is nothing like mixing 2-3 vegetables as well. If you see, like, one vegetable, they cook very well. So this is cooked. And finally to this, I'm putting this aside. So chili was never there in Ayurvedic cooking. You will be surprised, there was no mention of chili powder. It was the pepper. Pepper is the king. So just some pepper and mix it well. So use the sesame oil, the gingerly oil, and if you are suffering with any kind of severe vata problem like back pain or leg pains, any kind of body pains, then it is good to take castor oil. Yes, you can take castor oil for cooking, and you will not know any taste difference or anything. So right now I have taken sesame oil and I am putting asafoetida. So I've taken almost like a spoon of asafoetida and I'm putting it to the recipe. The brinjal recipe, according to the textbook Chem Kotuhala, is ready to eat. You can eat it with chapatis, rotis, puris, even just plain rice, and you will love this recipe. So please try and see how do you go. It's not very difficult recipe. It increases little bit of pitta, so people who have high pitta in their body, they can avoid taking too much. So they can have little bit of this recipe, but people who have very high vata and kapha disorders, they can have this. Thank you so much. I hope you loved all the 3 recipes. Please enjoy. Thank you. Namaste.
Thank you, madam, for playing this. I was just looking at the questions. There's so many. I am going to answer one of the questions which Dr. Ravindra Murthy from US, he himself is an allopathic physician who is asking me about one of the problems we have in making recommendations to our patient is lack of data regarding safety and efficacy of treatments in Ayurveda or homeopathy or other Eastern system of medicine. Is such data available for treatments offered by Ayurvedic system? So Dr. Ravindra, thank you for asking this very, very common questions, even in the mind of practitioners who come from Western medical background, or even the general public who takes Ayurvedic treatment is about safety and where to make recommendations from. The thing is that we as Ayurvedic doctors been taught a lot about Western medication when we study in our degree of 6 years of 5.5 years of bachelor degree, unlike a Western medical system, which doesn't incorporate a lot from Eastern medical system. So it would be actually, love to ask to government to include a little bit of at least our dietary system, some very common herbs in the syllabus of doctor who are studying Western medication, you know, to include that, because you would agree too that, you know, Western medical system just came in existence very recently, and humans have been on this earth from longer time. So of course they would have developed to something to look after their health. It is not like that we have been just started looking after health now. And previously it was more about prevention of diseases and to live healthy. And that's when if the food has been given a lot of importance. And if you look at any other Eastern medical system, how much Ayurveda highlights about food, seasonal variation, your dinacharya, ritucharya, and what to do, what not to do, who to make a friend, you know, just a simple thing like who to make a friend. We call it as achara rasayana, how to behave, a philosophy, a spirituality. You would find everything in Ayurveda as a whole. There's numerous textbooks, and you would agree too, because when Ayurveda was flourishing, you know, we all were, I guess, very healthy back then. And then when people started coming to India, Indian subcontinent, they brought with them a lot of their culture, their cuisine with them, their medical thing, which they were practicing in their home, they brought to India. And that's when it influenced the people around as well. So in a due course of time, it evolved. So I would say you can look at Ayush website. They would have some guidelines which are very authentic ones. You can pick up those. But I would also recommend you to read Charak Samhita. You know, if you know a little bit of Sanskrit, or even it is translated very well in English, it is a very good textbook to read, not just by physicians, but by everyone who wants to know what to eat, when to eat, because this knowledge gap is there. It is existing because previously it was like given from older generation to the younger ones, and that gap has been created. So to fill these gaps, we need to talk about it, and we should not be talking the mix up things. So we have to go to a true Ayurvedic fundamental principles to talk about it. So if you take pure Ayurvedic herbs, a good diet, I don't see any side effects in those medication. People do talk about a lot about heavy metals, but they are part of Ayurveda. And if you purify, they go through a lot of big process to purify to be able to consume. So I would say you can go to Ayush website and look at those diets which are recommended to particular diseases. And diseases also should be based on Ayurvedic diagnosis and not modern diagnosis. Aparna madam, you can take any other question if you like.
Thank you. A lot of the questions seem to be about, we all of us have time constraints and there's a overdose of information. So could you give us some tips as to what books you mentioned the traditional texts, but some of us who cannot read Sanskrit, could you tell us some texts called in English which we could follow for to get some recipes, Dr. Vibhuti?
Yes, so this textbook where I have taken recipe from is this Chema Kotuhala. So you can get this book very easily on, it is available on Amazon, in any good bookstore. We have in Bangalore with this bookstores where you can get this. Chema Kotuhala, Bhojan Kotuhala is also another textbook which you can take it, but you cook it in with your Ayurvedic doctor. It is very important that you just don't go, and you can try and eat a little bit, but always ask, can I take this in access? So don't have it anything in access. So have these textbooks. Charak Samhita has been, of course, we have a lot of Ayurvedic textbooks which have been translated well into English. So you can pick up those Samhitas, because I have a lot of my patients who really like to read Ayurveda when they take my treatment to know the fundamental principles, because our information is very much loaded based on Western medical system. If I tell you that, let's say talk about the bleeding disorders among female, they tell, okay, I have progesterone deficiency, I have dysfunctional uterine bleeding, I have this, and they come to Ayurvedic doctor. So Ayurvedic doctor has a different task to make a diagnosis based on your symptoms. So always go to a doctor with symptoms, not with a diagnosis. So let the doctor make a diagnosis, and with time constraint, look, you have to manage, because health is wealth. The time you spend in earnings, you would not enjoy your earnings if health is not good. So you ask anybody, and so we say that, Chaturveda Purushartha, Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha, Arogya Moolam Uttamam. Like, you can achieve your Dharma, Artha, Kama, and at the end even Moksha only when you are healthy, when your Arogya is very good. So you have to keep a time aside from your routine. And I think because of this, a lot of our fast food, fast sleep, fast wake up, fast everything, people want slow aging. People want like a longer life. And you're asking a lot from this, because our present decides our future. So if look at your present life, is it very chaotic? Of course, then you will end up in having disease. You will end up having a lot of troubles. So far, like, you have to spend time in cooking, no matter what. You wake up early, do your cooking, go to work. Here and there, of course, we can compromise a bit. And the restaurant food, what is available outside, is just for your tongue, not for your health. Remember that. Though they say it is organic, whatever, it is generally a business. Food is a business nowadays. So you have to choose very wisely that you don't spoil your gut with a lot of those chemicals, coloring agent. You look at the dish, you feel like, wow, yummy, and that redness, that chili flavor on that paneer goes in that, and a lot of things visually satisfy you. So it satisfies your ear, eyes, and then you immediately want to eat it. So you have to spend time, and that's my request to everyone, to cook for yourself, for you, that what is good according to season. And of course, local food and seasonal food. You remember these two principles.
Namaskar, and
Namaste,
I
madam.
think we have come to, we just have a minute left. So we thank you very much, Dr. Vibhuti. I know there are many unanswered questions here, and we have decided that after this festival, we will start having sessions that will be long enough for people to actually be able to interact a lot more and understand better. And I think we will start putting up Ayurvedic recipes right on our website. So we will have you help us with that. And the questions that are here, we will see that they get answered to you somehow on our website. So you will get the answers. So
Yes.
thank you very much. And yes, go local and seasonal, I think, is the order of the day. And in all the three sessions today, I think what we have covered is that the mind is very important also. It's not just about physical ahara, but about not only the mind of the cook, but also the person who eats and the atmosphere around. All this goes together to make a person healthy. And yes, I constantly hear this whole excuse about, oh, today in the lifetime. See, one has to understand that we have to know how to set aside time for ourselves, because it's all fine in youth when you're running around, but as age hits you, that's when you know that your lifestyle of the past 20 years has really done havoc to you. So it's better to wake up soon to learning to live healthy and go healthy. And also what you said about, I think one of the allopathic doctors asked this question. I mean, this is from my view. I think allopathic is such an individualized system that there is no generalization of results here. So one has to just trust that it has been around for thousands of years and take it from there, and also understand that unless you have a little bit of, I don't know whether the word faith is the right thing, but if you don't have a little bit of faith in what you're doing, it's not going to work on you. So having said this, I think we will end with a prayer for today. And everybody can join me in this. My team should be there with me. Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinah, Sarve Santu Niramayah, Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu, Kaschid Dukkha Bhag Bhavet. Om Shanti 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 Hari Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om.